What if I told you that not liking pets doesn't necessarily make someone cold, heartless, or incapable of love? Yet the moment someone says, "I'm just not a pet person," people often react as if they've confessed something shocking. They get strange looks, awkward silence, sometimes even criticism, as though loving animals is the only proof of kindness. But psychology tells a completely different story, because the human mind is far more complicated than simple labels. The truth is, the way we feel about pets isn't decided by one emotion. It's shaped by years of experiences, personality, the environment we grew up in, and even the way our brain processes the world around us. That's why two equally kind people can have completely different feelings about living with animals. One person comes home after a long day. A dog runs toward them with excitement, and they instantly feel relaxed. Another person experiences the exact same moment, and instead of comfort, they feel mentally exhausted before they've even taken off their shoes. Neither reaction is wrong. They're simply different. But why? Why do some people naturally connect with animals, while others never seem to develop that bond? The answer begins with something psychologists call perception. Our brains are constantly deciding, without us realizing it, what feels comforting and what feels overwhelming. Think about walking into a crowded restaurant. Some people immediately enjoy the conversations, the music, the movement, the energy. Others can't wait to leave. The same environment. Two completely different experiences. Pets work in a surprisingly similar way. To one person, a dog's barking feels cheerful. To another, it feels like constant noise. A cat jumping onto the couch feels adorable to one person, while someone else immediately notices the fur, the cleaning, and the disruption to their routine. This isn't negativity. It's simply how different brains prioritize different information. Psychologists have long known that our attention isn't objective. Two people can experience the exact same situation, yet remember completely different details. One notices affection. The other notices responsibility. One notices companionship. The other notices unpredictability. Neither brain is lying. Each is simply filtering the world in its own unique way. And that's where one of the biggest misunderstandings begins. People often assume that if someone doesn't enjoy pets, they must dislike animals. But those are not the same thing. Someone can respect wildlife, care deeply about animal welfare, donate to shelters, and still decide they don't want a pet living in their home, because appreciation and preference are two completely different things. In fact, many people who choose not to own pets aren't rejecting animals. They're simply choosing a lifestyle that fits the way they naturally function. And surprisingly, science suggests there may be another reason behind this, a reason most people never think about. It has nothing to do with kindness, or empathy, or even personality alone. It begins with something happening inside the brain itself. And once you understand it, you may never look at this topic the same way again. So, what exactly shapes the way we feel about pets? One answer lies in something psychologists call sensory sensitivity. Not every brain experiences the world in the same way. Some people naturally enjoy noise, movement, and constant interaction. Others feel happiest when life is calm, predictable, and quiet. Imagine coming home after a long day. A dog runs toward you, barking with excitement. Its tail is wagging. It wants your attention immediately. For one person, that moment instantly melts away the stress of the day. But for someone else, the exact same moment can feel mentally overwhelming before they've even put their bag down. Neither reaction is wrong. They're simply different nervous systems responding to the same experience. Psychologists have found that people naturally pay attention to different parts of the same situation. One person notices affection. Another notices responsibility. One notices companionship, another notices the noise, the mess, or the interruption to their routine. Our brains aren't objective cameras, they're filters, and every person's filter is slightly different. But biology is only part of the story. Our experiences shape us too. A child who grows up with a loving family pet often connects animals with comfort, safety, and happy memories. A dog waiting by the front door, a cat sleeping beside them while they read. Those moments quietly become part of what home feels like. But not everyone grows up with those memories. Some people were bitten by a dog. Some developed allergies. Others grew up in families where pets simply weren't part of daily life. Without realizing it, the brain stores those experiences. Psychologists call this emotional conditioning. Over time, those early memories become emotional shortcuts. The brain learns what feels familiar and what feels uncertain. That's why two adults can meet the same friendly dog, yet experience completely different emotions. One feels excitement, the other feels caution. Neither person is choosing that reaction consciously. Their brain is responding based on years of experience. Personality also plays a surprisingly important role. Some people recharge by being surrounded by activity. Others recharge by protecting their personal space. For someone who enjoys peace and quiet, a pet's constant need for attention can slowly become mentally exhausting. That doesn't mean they dislike animals. It simply means they recover their energy differently. Then there's something many people never think about: responsibility. Owning a pet isn't only about affection. It's a commitment that lasts for years. Daily feeding, regular walks, vet visits, unexpected expenses, changing your schedule around another life. Some people honestly recognize that they aren't ready for that responsibility. Instead of making a promise they can't fully keep, they choose not to own a pet at all. Ironically, that decision often comes from respect rather than rejection, because real compassion sometimes means understanding your own limits. Perhaps the biggest misunderstanding is believing that people who don't like pets lack empathy, but empathy has never been measured by whether you own a dog or enjoy spending time with cats. Some people show kindness through conversations. Others care for aging parents. Some volunteer in their communities. Others quietly support friends when no one else notices. Compassion takes many different forms, and perhaps that's the real lesson psychology teaches us. Behind every preference, there's usually a story, a personality, a memory, or a way of experiencing the world that other people simply cannot see. So the next time someone says, "I'm just not a pet person," don't be too quick to judge. Be curious instead. Because understanding people doesn't begin when they think like us. It begins when we're willing to understand why they don't. Perhaps that's the real psychology behind people who don't like pets. It's rarely about hate. It's usually about experience, personality, perspective, and the invisible ways our minds quietly shape the lives we choose to live. If this changed the way you see people, remember this: psychology isn't about deciding who's right. It's about understanding why different minds can experience the exact same world in completely different ways.